What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's transfer tips for game week 9. So I'm going to go through some of the popular players being moved into people's teams and taken out and give you my opinion on whether they are good moves or not. And there's a lot of players to discuss in this one, so let's get into it. So you know how I was saying recently that FPL every single season always throws something up you're not necessarily expecting? Well, let's talk about Michael Keane. Not a player that most of us thought about in pre-season, but Branthwaite, it was confirmed yesterday, has suffered a complication in his hamstring injury recovery, and it sounds like he's going to be out for months. So all of a sudden, if you're looking for an Everton defender, you've got a very cheap option in Keane at 4.5 million. He's a genuine option moving forward. I have seen some people discuss that maybe they could put O'Brien as a centre-back and play like Garner right-back, but I just don't see it. Every game that Branthwaite's been out for, that Keane has been available for, he's played. So I think he will continue to get pretty good minutes. He's not as good as Tarkowski for defensive contributions, but he's not bad either. He's averaging so far this season 9.5 per start. I think Tarkowski's like 11.5. So Tarkowski's going to get it most games. Keane will chip in every now and again. The big thing with Keane is he's a million cheaper, and he's also got genuine goal threat as well. Like when it's a corner, when it's a free kick being crossed into the box, Keane is often the player that gets on the end of it. And that's why I really like him. So if you're looking for a new cheap defender, maybe if Gyökeres gets ruled out for ages and you've got him in your squad, I would definitely look at him. I think you can basically play him most weeks. Like if you look at the next 6 game weeks, if you had to play him against Spurs at home in 9, not terrible. Sunderland away in 10 is fine. Fulham at home in 11 is okay. And then, okay, Man United away in 12, Newcastle at home 13, Bournemouth away 14, not quite so good. But at 4.5 million, he's benchable. And if you have to play him, he has always got that goal threat and could chip in with defensive contributions as well. So I don't think he necessarily becomes the best cheap defender. Like if you don't have a Crystal Palace defender and you wanted to go for Richards from game week 10 onwards, I really like that as well. But Keane just offers another option. And I think he's worth considering if you're looking for a new defender over the next couple of weeks with Branthwaite out for so long. So let's stick to Everton and talk about Ndiaye next, who I thought was excellent against Man City in game week 8. A little bit unlucky to not walk away with an attack and return, but did get defensive contributions for the 3rd time this season. And I know a lot of people before that match were thinking about selling him, and perhaps you held on to him through choice or because Enzo Fernandez was a doubt. Whatever the reason, if you've still got him in your team, I would not be looking to actively sell. I just think for 6.5, some defensive contribution potential, first choice penalty taker, and the underlying numbers are looking good this season. Grealish will be back in the squad this week as well, so that improves Everton from an attacking point of view. He's averaged 84 minutes per start. Spurs at home, Sunderland away, Fulham at home, next 3 is fine. After that, it does get a little bit tougher, like I spoke about with Keane, but the fixtures 12 to 14 are not such a worry for an attacker. Okay, Man United away, Newcastle at home, Bournemouth away. Clean sheet's probably going to be tough enough. But for an attacker, if you had to play Ndiaye against Man United away or Newcastle at home, it's probably not a huge worry. So there's no way I'll be looking to sell him right now. I think for that price, he's one of the best midfielders. Like maybe from game week 10, if you were buying new, you'd probably go for Sarr at Crystal Palace if you had a spare slot instead. But right now, like if you've got him in your team, why would you sell him before Spurs at home? There's lots of good midfielders right now, but I don't know if there's a huge amount that are miles better. So if I've got Ndiaye, I'm definitely keeping him. I even think if you need a new midfielder this week, you could make a case to buy him. Now that will probably depend on the fitness of Enzo Fernandez. If Enzo Fernandez gets minutes midweek in the Champions League and then looks set to start for Sunderland at home, then good fixtures afterwards, maybe you go for him instead. But honestly, at 6.5, there's many worse options than Ndiaye to buy. So if you've got him, definitely don't sell, in my opinion. And you could consider picking him up, especially if you're someone that's going to wildcard in 12 or 13. So it looks like we might be about to have a bunch of really cheap forwards around the 4.5 million price point. They're actually going to get some minutes moving forward. And the best of the lot might be Kroupi Jr, who started in game week 8, got 2 goals. And he started because Evan-Neilson was out with injury. And it's quite likely, I think, that Kroupi Jr will start in game week 9 as well. Iraola, when he was asked about Evan-Neilson missing out, said he definitely couldn't play in game week 8 and that we'd see for the next few weeks. So that didn't sound positive for him coming straight back. Plus, his replacements just scored 2 goals. So maybe there's a little bit less reason to rush him back. Now, for what it's worth, I've seen people talk about Kroupi Jr as game breaking. I don't really see him in the same light. Because I think as bad as Evanilson's been from an output perspective for FPL so far, once he's back fit, he'll go back into that Bournemouth team as first choice number 9. And Kroupi Jr. will have to go back to being on the bench most weeks. But if Evanilson is ruled out for 4, 5, 6 game weeks or more, which again seems unlikely right now, but if he was, then yeah, maybe Kroupi Jr. is a little bit game breaking at 4.5 million. Not only would he play regularly and get pretty good minutes, he's also playing for a very good team as well. So I would definitely consider him for your transfers this week, but I think this is more for someone that was already thinking about tanking one of their forward spots. So putting it down to someone that's not going to play that regularly, but maybe needs someone in game week 9. So for example, I'm not going to go into my team in great detail. If I wanted to upgrade one of my midfielders this week and not play Reijnders and Dewsbury Hall, I could do Evanilson down to Kroupi Jr., play him against Forest, bench Dewsbury Hall, and then upgrade Reijnders to a different midfielder. And then going forward, I'd probably, when Evanilson is back, I would just have Kroupi Jr. on the bench. So he's definitely someone to look at, especially if you were looking to move to a kind of, I just keep calling it a dead spot, but you also maybe need someone to get minutes this week. And obviously, if he is ruled out for a while, it's Aston Villa away in 11, West Ham at home in 12, and Sunderland away in 13. At that point, if he's going to start regularly, then yeah, maybe he is a bit game-breaking. The other two players to maybe consider are Marshall at West Ham. Now, he didn't start last night, which I think, considering Paquetá played number 9 essentially and wasn't very good, is not necessarily an indication that Marshall's going to get lots of minutes moving forward. But he has made 2 appearances off the bench. And the interesting thing is, in both of these games, game week 7 and 8, Callum Wilson didn't play at all. Like last night, West Ham chasing the game, they made 5 subs. Callum Wilson didn't get on the pitch. Marshall came on and played up front instead. That doesn't bode well for Callum Wilson's minutes going forward. So if you don't want to take up a Bournemouth spot for any reason, or you want someone a bit cheaper, 4.4 million, I don't know if Marshall's going to start anytime soon for West Ham, but he does look like he's going to get semi-regular minutes off the bench. So those 1-pointers, you might get them. Or you've got Guiu at Chelsea. Now, he hasn't started yet, but he did come off the bench against Forest and did okay. And there's starting to be a bit of talk about the fact he might start in the Champions League midweek. Now, if he starts midweek, it doesn't mean he's definitely going to start at the weekend. But if he plays well, he might just play himself into that team. And João Pedro can go and play number 10 instead. Now, there's interesting knock-ons here, just to go off on a little bit of a tangent. Let me just make this a little bit... Oh, you can't see... Yeah, there you go. I am talking about Mark Guiu. If he starts playing 9 and João Pedro plays 10, that means Enzo Fernandez plays a bit deeper. So there are knock-on effects here. But ultimately, for 4.3 million, if he performs well midweek, and there's a chance he's going to start against Sunderland, you could do a similar thing with Kroupi Jr. You play him this week, then you relegate him to mostly being on your bench moving forward. So there's a few different options here. At the moment, I don't see any of those players, Kroupi Jr., Marshall, or Guiu, as so good that you've got to completely change your structure. But as an example, if you've got bench boost for game week 9, and you need a cheap, like you've got, I don't know, Obi, right, and you want a bench boost in 9, shift to Kroupi Jr. and bench boost. Like it's those kind of small things that might be important for some people's teams. For my team, I don't know if I'm going to bother. I've obviously already bench boost. I don't know if I'm going to bother moving to a cheap forward, but it's definitely an option. So Kroupi Jr. probably going to play this week. Wait and see what Iriarda says. Marshall keeps getting minutes off the bench, and Guiu might soon be in line for a start. And I don't think it would be that bad to block a Chelsea spot right now. Enzo Fernandez, most people aren't really happy with João Pedro, maybe a defender. I think if you want to play it safe, go for a forward from a different team. But if Guiu's going to start against Sunderland, if he performs well midweek, that could be quite an interesting differential. And like I said, going forward, you can just bench him most weeks anyway. Let's talk about Anthony Gordon next. I think anyone that brought him in recently is already starting to get cold feet with him, which is completely understandable because in each of the last 3 matches, he's been subbed off before the 70th minute. And also, something I didn't realise until I started making this video, he hasn't got a goal or an assist so far this season in the Premier League, which isn't great. Now, to be fair, he was suspended for 3 matches because of a red card. So against Liverpool, he only played 47 minutes. One of the games he's played is Arsenal, which is always difficult. But against Villa, Brighton and Forest, nothing so far. So I get why people are getting frustrated with him. This, for me, is a classic, probably don't buy, but don't sell. Okay, the early subs are annoying, but as far as we know, he's first choice penalty taker. And hopefully those minutes will improve a little bit over the coming weeks. And the fixtures are quite good next 3. Fulham at home, West Ham away, Brentford away. If you watched the West Ham game last night, which I unfortunately did, they were terrible. And I'm not quite sure how they're going to get much better anytime soon. It's like if Jared Bowen doesn't do anything, they've got no other options. Like they were so bad. Now, you've got to be careful about not overreacting to one game, but I'm sure if people have watched every West Ham game this season, yeah, I've got Paquetá on my team. I'm not happy. So West Ham away pretty good. And Brentford were good last night, but I think that's because they were playing West Ham. I see Brentford away as an okay fixture for Newcastle. So if I've got Gordon, I've got their first choice penalty taker that's probably going to get at least 70 minutes each game with 3 good fixtures. I'm not sure I'd go out of my way to sell him. Would I buy him right now? Probably not. I just think for nearly $1 million less, you can go and buy Ndiaye. Or if you wait until game week 10, you can go and get Sarr. And Sarr's underlying numbers are so good. He doesn't have penalties, of course, but he saves you a lot of money. And the fixtures are just good for quite a while. You don't really have any concerns about early subs either. Now, Glasner did talk a little bit about rotation because obviously they got Europe, but he also kind of basically said if the medical team would say it's fine for the players to play, there won't be that much rotation. So Sarr's going to keep playing. He's much cheaper. Game week 10 onwards looks good. So I wouldn't buy Gordon right now. The early subs would put me off. But if I had him in my team, I'd be frustrated, but I know for how I play the game, I wouldn't be selling him. The next 3 are good, penalties, and at least he's going to keep starting. Sticking to Newcastle, let's talk about Nick Woltemade next, who's up to 7.4 million. And how good has he looked so far, by the way? 4 goals in his first 5 matches. The minutes are getting better as well. If you look at the 5 games so far, back-to-back 90s against Forest and Brighton in 7 and 8. Before that, only 66 minutes against Arsenal, but that's a tough game. It was 83 against Bournemouth and then 64 against Wolves, but that was his first game in a Newcastle shirt. So the minutes are getting better. He keeps scoring. And often the narrative is, don't get players new to the league because they won't do very well. And there's always examples of that happening, like Wirtz. Woltemade, not a problem whatsoever. So if you've got him, you're definitely not selling him. I think you can make a case to buy him this week. But I will say from game week 10 onwards, I think the top 2 forwards are probably Haaland and Mateta. Now, that doesn't mean that Mateta is essential, right? I've talked about him a lot this week already. That will continue next week. But if I was wildcarding next week, I would go for Mateta over Woltemade. I just trust the minutes a little bit more because Newcastle are in Champions League. And I don't think that Nketiah is such a problem for Mateta as maybe Visser will become for Woltemade. So Woltemade, I think, will just be first choice now. I don't see Visser having too much of a say in that. But Woltemade's minutes might come down a little bit. So if I was choosing next week, I would definitely go Mateta. But if you want Woltemade this week instead, or you want to go for a Haaland, Mateta, Woltemade front 3, or João Pedro, Woltemade, Haaland, whatever it might be, I think that's fine. All right? And Visser is going to be back soon, but I don't necessarily know if he'll have a massive impact straight away. Eventually he will. But straight away, I'm not so sure. Right now, according to the FPL site, Visser is scheduled to be back for November 2nd. That's game week 10 against West Ham away. He's not going to start that game. And he's probably going to take a while to build up fitness. He's not played any matches so far. And also, presumably, if he is fit, he's going to go to AFCON anyway, which is game week 17. So if you're looking at Newcastle's fixtures, if you were thinking about bringing in Woltemade, he's going to start this week in 9. He's going to start in 10. He probably starts in 11. Then you've got an international break. Maybe gives Visser a bit of time to, get up to a bit better match fitness, etc. So, okay, maybe Man City at home, Everton away, it's not so good, but you'd expect Woltemade to continue starting because of how well he's played. It just depends how quickly Visser can get fit, because obviously with Champions League, there might be a game where Eddie Howe plays Woltemade midweek, then Visser later on. So I would say next 3 he looks fine. 12 onwards, maybe it becomes a little bit more of an issue. And then game week 17 is AFCON, and presumably Visser will go and play in that. I guess the main problem might be if Visser is fully fit and playing well, will you be able to guarantee the minutes for Woltemade against Burnley and Sunderland? I don't know if it's a massive problem. If you need a forward now, you can just bring him in and then worry about it later. If you have to move him on, you have to move him on. I definitely wouldn't be selling him. So I think he's okay to buy, but personally, I'm not going to go there because I think I can only afford one forward around this price. And I just prefer Mateta, just about, who has penalties, whereas for Newcastle, we know it's Anthony Gordon first choice. So just to cover off Richarlison, I'll keep this nice and simple. If you've got a spare transfer at any point soon, including this week, he needs to go. There is no reason whatsoever to keep hold of him any longer. I thought in game week 8 he had a chance of starting because of the minutes he'd played during the internationals for Brazil. still didn't start. So didn't start against Villa, 30 minutes. Didn't start against Leeds, 16 minutes. He got benched in game week 4 as well. You cannot rely on the minutes whatsoever. And this is without Solanke and Muani. He's still not starting. Tell is being used instead. So there's just no point having this headache anymore. The only reason I could see to keep hold of Richarlison is if midweek loads of attackers get injured. But even then, I don't think he can cope with playing weekend, midweek, weekend for very long. So just get rid of him. If I was buying a forward this week, I think long term I do prefer Mateta over Woltemade, like I've just said. So even if you were buying before Arsenal away, maybe you could just about justify that. If you don't want to do that, or you've already got Mateta or don't want him, then Woltemade looks good. Or you could do the move I talked about earlier where you go down to a cheap playing forward like Kroupi Jr, maybe a week or two, and then use that money elsewhere. But there's just no... I can't think of any positives for keeping Richarlison. He's got to go. I think Bryan Mbeumo is a genuine option in FPL for anyone that's got a little bit of money they're looking to spend or wants to go a little bit different. He's not essential. You don't have to rush out and buy him or anything like that. But I think he is a genuine option. I tweeted before game week 6 that for those people looking at going Foden, you could consider Mbeumo instead. The fixtures in 6 and 7 were just as good. And his minutes are absolutely secure going forward from what we've seen so far. Now, to be fair, Foden has played 90 minutes in every game since I tweeted that. He's just been a bit unlucky to not get any returns. But I was met with a lot of, well, Mbeumo plays for Man United replies. I don't think that matters. His underlying numbers are really good. 0.31 non-penalty expected goals per 90 so far. 0.25 expected assists. They're really good numbers. He takes set pieces as well. Not all of them, but does take quite a few. And his minutes look good. Now, I will say, I don't know if I can forever guarantee those minutes because there is Mount and Cunha that play those number 10 spots as well. And obviously when Cunha played against Liverpool, Šeško came out of the team, but Šeško is going to play quite a lot. So you've got Mount, Mbeumo and Cunha into 2 spots. But Mbeumo kind of plays that right 10. Cunha and Mount is more for that left 10. So I don't think we're going to see Mbeumo out of the team anytime soon. And I think the reason that Cunha's minutes are not quite so good is because of his defensive work. I think out of possession, Mbeumo is really good. And that's a big reason why Mount gets into the team. Cunha maybe a little bit less so. So I think Mbeumo is going to start every game that he's fit and available for. I can't guarantee it like I can with Fernandes, but that's my feeling on it. And the stats are good. And the fixtures are good as well. Brighton at home, Forest away, Spurs away, Everton at home. So maybe if you've got a squad structure where you've got a bit more money to spend in midfield, you want to take a punt on Mbeumo over Ndiaye, Sarr, Gordon, whoever it might be, I think that's fine. I wouldn't get him in at all costs or anything like that. Obviously, if it blocks a bigger move elsewhere, then don't do it. But if you're considering him, I think he's fine. I think people always say that I'm biased towards Man United picks, but I think people are biased towards not picking Man United players because they can't see past the team versus the FPL pick. And quite often in FPL, you pick a player from a worse team because you know they're going to start. Like, for example, if you're looking for a Liverpool attacker right now, it's maybe difficult to completely judge the minutes. So Liverpool are a better team than Man United, despite losing at the weekend. But Mbeumo might be the better FPL pick. So I'm not gonna try and sit here and completely sell it to you. I will not probably be buying him anytime soon. But for 8 million in and around that price point, I'm not sure there's a huge amount of better options apart from maybe Semenya. But I feel like at this point, everyone already owns him anyway. Let's talk about Reijnders next, who's now down to 5.7 million. His price has been a bit of a roller coaster so far this season. It went up quite quickly after game week 1. Then it went down before Burnley at home in 6, but then back up afterwards. Actually from 5.6 to 5.8. Now he's back down to 5.7. People can't quite make up their minds with him. And I'm kind of in a similar position. I think my initial reaction at the weekend was he's probably got to go. He's been subbed before 60. On reflection, that was probably a little bit too knee-jerk. I suspect he will continue to start, and most games he probably will get 70 to 80 minutes. But there are some question marks there. And as much as I'm not going to rush out to sell him this week, there is a chance I might sell him next week. So I'm not looking at him as someone you've got to hold on to. The fixtures are very good, game week 13 onwards, and I still see him as a good value pick at less than 6 million, but he's not someone that you have to hold on to. He's not that good. I said this before game week 8 and before that early sub. It's got to the point where there are just 5 better midfielders, and it's about whether you want to take one of those spots up with the Reijnders. Now, if you're on like 4 or 5 at the back, it's not such a big issue because you don't have to play them every week. But if you're on a 3-5-2, as much as he's good value, if you've got the budget to spend, there's definitely better picks out there, like Ndiaye, like Sarr, like Semenyo, like Fernandes, like Saka, like Mbeumo I just spoke about. And there's probably a bunch of players I've missed as well. In fact, if I bring up the midfielders here, yeah, like Semenyo, Enzo if he's fit, of course. Kuda's still not bad to hold on to, although I wouldn't buy him right now. Even Grealish maybe. Minter as well at Brighton. I mean, if you look at Brighton's fixtures, game week 10 onwards, Leeds at home, Palace away, Brentford at home, Forest away, Villa at home, West Ham at home, really good. And then Liverpool away in 16, but then Sunderland at home in 17. Minter's only 6 million, so he's 0.3 million more, and his underlying numbers are much better. So I see Reijnders not as a massive problem, but I think if you're in that nice position where you've got 3 or 4 transfers and you can upgrade him to a better midfielder by taking some money out elsewhere, I think that's a pretty nice move to make. Like, again, not to go into my team in great detail, but it's always good as an example. Like, I've got Reijnders, Dewsbury Hall, and Paquetá. I must admit, after last night, that feels absolutely horrible. If I could pivot to say, let's just put Guiu in here, someone really cheap, and then go to Mateta, who I like from 10, like all of a sudden, I've got 4.8 million to spend. Now, I would probably just go and buy Saka with that money. But an alternative would just be to upgrade all of these spots. So Dewsbury Hall to Sarr, Reijnders to Ndiaye maybe, and then Paquetá up to an 8.3 million. So I don't know. I just put Mbeumo in there for now. Maybe I would go to Enzo or Minter. Yeah, let's just put Minter in, okay, instead of Mbeumo. And I've still got 2.3 million to spend. All of a sudden, I've got no bad midfielders. That's how Reijnders feels to me at the moment. He's fine. And I don't mind holding on to him, but I definitely wouldn't buy him. And I think once you've got that spare transfer to upgrade, I would probably take it. Because even if he is good value from 30 and onwards, you can maybe come back to him. Because it's not a guarantee that he will still be playing regularly or still be playing good minutes. And before that, you've got Liverpool at home in 11, Newcastle away in 12. I think he will continue to start, but you can just never guarantee that, right? So, yeah, if you've got to keep him for Villa away, Bournemouth home, that's not a problem, even if you have to play him. But it's getting to the point now where I would like to find the money to upgrade him. Honestly, I feel like half of my FPL team right now is just players that are okay. Okay because they're going to keep starting, but that I'm not particularly happy with and that I definitely wouldn't include on wildcard. And that brings me on nicely to Victor Gyökeres. 9 million, cannot score a goal at the moment in that Arsenal team. It's just not happening. And the annoying thing is, it's not like every game he's getting a ton of chances. Like, so far in the games he's played, he's put up an average of 0.34 expected goals per 90 minutes. I mean, it's not completely awful, but it's also not very good when you play for Arsenal. Now, some people will say he's just not getting enough creativity, enough passes, but honestly, strikers' movement and positioning helps a lot. Like, Haaland scores a lot of goals, of course, because he plays for Man City, but also because the guy's a joke of a number 9. He gets into the right positions all the time. His movement's great, etc. His pace is really good. Gyökeres, I think the jury is still out on whether he can deliver. Now, obviously, I'm not expecting him to be Haaland, right? Haaland's a joke. But he can definitely be better than what he's producing right now. So I definitely wouldn't be buying him right now. I would not be including him on wildcard. If I was wildcarding, Saka in double defence, I think is fairly straightforward. If you're on a different combination, like you've got Eze, don't panic. If you're on triple defence, that's also really good. And by the way, on a slight tangent, that midfield I showed you just a minute ago, Semenyo, Sarr, Ndiaye, Fernandes, Minter, if I could get to something like that and triple defence for Arsenal quickly, like if I had tons of transfers saved up, I would consider it. But honestly, the easy solution is just to get Saka. So I would not buy or wildcard Gyökeres right now. Should you sell him? Probably, if you've got the opportunity to do it, would be my stance. Like, if you're sat there with 3, 4, 5 transfers, I guess it's a case of what are you waiting for now? If you've got a good move where you can switch Gyökeres to Saka, I would do it. Especially if you can roll transfers into future weeks where they're going to be... Sorry, basically, if you can do Gyökeres to Saka and still be in a good position with transfers moving forward, that feels quite nice. If you're sat there with 2 free transfers and you've got a good move that makes sense, I would also probably just do it. Saka is better moving forward. I will say for my team, as I explained on early thoughts, it doesn't make sense for me to make the switch this week, so I will not do it. There is a chance I get to game week 10 and I just decide to stick it out with Gyökeres. Because at that point, 10 and 11's Burnley away, Sunderland away. Could Gyökeres match Saka in those 2 weeks? It's possible. So I might take the risk. And then game week 12, I might just go without an Arsenal attacker. I don't think that's very likely, by the way. The main thing that will happen is I probably just buy Saka in game week 10. But I want to leave the option open where I don't need to do that. So as much as I'm sat here saying I would probably sell Gyökeres, I might not do it. But that's purely because of my team and the way I've kind of stuck myself with lots of money in defence, etc. And the fact I've got Evan Nielsen, so I can't do Gyökeres to Kroupi Jr, as I explained yesterday. It's just a personal thing with my team. But yeah, if I had 3, 4, 5 transfers, I'd be switching, I think. I would just feel much better with Saka in my team than Gyökeres. So don't buy and probably sell as soon as you can. So Cody Gakpo is an interesting one at Liverpool. 7.5 million, and his underlying numbers are really good so far. 0.4 expected goals per 90. That's some serious goal threat. And there is a little bit of creativity there as well. 0.2 expected assists per 90. That's really good. Now, his minutes aren't 100% secure. We've already seen him get subbed at 60 minutes against Everton. He was on the bench against Palace and came on at half-time. But he has played 6 90-minute games out of 8 so far. So in terms of minutes outside of Salah, his are probably just as good as anyone else's, if not slightly better. And honestly, he's probably the only Liverpool attacker that actually looks good right now. When you look at the numbers, there is maybe some slight improvement from Saka last couple of weeks in terms of expected goal involvement. But honestly, his shots and stuff like that are all down. He's just not looking great. Isak's been pretty rubbish, if we're honest. Wirtz has not been great whatsoever. Gakpo's the only one that's been decent. So I think, last week, people with Gakpo, I said I would keep because I think he'll start against Man United. I think if you've still got him, you probably hold on to him. Like, there is a chance, of course, if he starts midweek in Champions League that he gets benched in game week 9. But I think he's going to start way more often at the moment than he doesn't. Because the alternative is putting on, like, someone who's 16. I think he's still 16. He might be 17 now. Like, left winger. Or playing, like, lots of more central players. I mean, I guess he could play Ekitike and Isak together. That's something that could happen. Ekitike could play off the left. Or Wirtz could have, like, a free role. But I think it just makes more sense for Liverpool to have Gakpo in the team when they can. So I don't think I'd be selling him right now. Brentford away is pretty good. Villa at home next week is pretty good as well on paper. And he'll probably play... Over those 2 games, I would expect him to probably get 150 minutes. I think you'd be a bit unlucky to get less than that. Now, the other discussion is, do you buy him right now? I think with that, I'd rather wait until game week 12. Brentford away and Villa at home are not bad. But I think by waiting until 12, you get that Man City away game in 11 out of the way, and you get a lot more data in terms of what his minutes are going to be like. Because it might be, I'm just pulling up the fixtures now, it might be that over the next few weeks, things really click. And Ekitike and Isak play really well together. It gives Slot another option and Gakpo gets benched a bit more often. So by game week 12, which is Forest at home, they would have played Champions League, Brentford, Carabao Cup, Villa, Real Madrid, Man City, and then Forest. So they got 6 matches before that game. If in those 6 matches, Gakpo's started like 4 or 5 of them, played 90 minutes a lot, all of a sudden you run into a fixture run of Forest at home in 12, West Ham away 13, Sunderland at home 14, Leeds away 15, Brighton at home 16, and then 17 Salah's away on AFCON. So we'll have to see what happens with the attack then. And the fixtures continue to be pretty good. So I think I'd hold. I think if I had him and hope for the best, because you might be ahead of the curve by the time we get to game week 12. But I think if I was buying, I would wait. I'd want to give myself another 6 matches. It sounds like a lot, right? But in terms of game weeks, it's only 3 more. Just to have a bit more idea. And also, Man City away is not an amazing fixture anyway. So for an FPL point of view, yes, there's 6 matches before Forest at home. But in terms of game weeks, it's Brentford away, Villa at home. That's about it. I think you can get away with not owning him. So yeah, that's Gakpo. And right now, like I said, looks better than Isak, better than Wirtz, etc. That might change. We'll have to wait and see. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what transfers you are making. And I will see you tomorrow for Game Week preview for all the stuff I've missed so far this week.